Yeah! Woo, doggy, that's a machine right there. Yeah, it is. All right, let's get some lights on. Let's get some lights on. 1, 2, 3, go! All right, we're gonna come off the tripod in a bit, but I, first of all, gotta do a little bit of jamming. Yeah. All right, let's come off the tripod and look at all the goodies on the workbench. All for my friend, Emily. Yeah. This is Emily's Model 360. In German, it is 360. Yeah, it is. Let me show you some of the cool stuff. First of all, this is an official Unicorn machine from my workshop. So these are going to be going with Emily's machine, her new friends, her guardians, her buddies. Yeah, they are. And I'm going to move her friends to the side for a second so I can show you a special treat that Emily sent to me that she made with her own hands. All of this yummy jam. Oh my gosh. I don't want to share it, but I will. Yeah, I will. I'll share it with all the boys. We've got strawberry, we've got blueberry, we've got cherry, we got everything. Yeah, we do. And then Emily sent me this beautiful card. It says, "Hi, Scott. Thank you for selling my mom the sewing machine. I've added some gifts from us as well and the check for covering shipping. I hope you enjoy them. From Emily." And then Emily used all these really cool embossed decorative things that I had sent her as a gift. So she gave a gift that keeps on giving. I love it. Look at this one. Woo! Awesome. Thanks, Emily. All right. Hey, Emily, let's ring the bell to start the class. All right. Class is officially started. Now, Emily already knows this, as does her mom, but I'm going to be including this original German chocolate. Oh my gosh, this stuff is so good. And in each one of these, there's 5 individual chocolate bars wrapped. So she can even share some of them if she wants to. But we got dark sea salt caramel. Oh my gosh. And then we've got toffee crunch. We've got dark sea salt. And my personal favorite, oh, dark mint. Oh, it's so good. And like Emily's machine, made in Germany. Well, it's kind of distributed by somebody in Illinois, but it is made in Germany. So all of these chocolate bars, along with Emily's new friends, her unicorns, because this is an original unicorn machine from the workshop, all of that's going to be going with this fabulous machine following this premiere when I pack it up very carefully and send it towards the great state of Texas. And of course, I had to include, since this machine was prepared in the workshop in Wisconsin, I had to make Emily an honorary Wisconsinite by giving her a mini Wisconsin license plate. And I know Emily's in college now, so she might eventually decide to start driving if she isn't driving already. And so she could either put this in her room above her incredible 360, hang it like on the wall, right? Like that. I think that'd look pretty good. That looks pretty good, actually. Or she could do with this little license plate whatever she wants to do with it, because it's hers now. So I'm going to put it over here by her chocolate and her unicorn friends. And I'm going to move her yummy jam that she prepared just for me to share. Yeah, I'll share it. I'll share it. I'll share it with all of my friends. Reggie gets some, and Mr. Bean gets some, and the Singer Repairman gets some. Dr. Singer will have some. Umi might eat some too. And then our newest friends right here will probably have some. I don't know if the pirate and the captain are going to get any or not, but I'll offer it to them. Yeah, everybody gets to try it. And I know Herr Obermeister loves jam. on all of his Brötchen. Brötchen is German for bread. He loves jam on his bread. So I know Herr Obermeister is going to be getting into this right after the premiere. Yes, he is. Now, a little bit of a rewind. When I introduced this machine for sale, I had it set up with this type of upholstery thread. And I ran it and I ran it and I ran it so much so, look at it's starting to run out. You can actually see the plastic spool thing right underneath all of this thread, the very little bit of thread that's left. Because I sewed all of these stitches and more using this bobbin and this thread. And I know that Emily and Veronica down in Texas, they saw all this incredible stitching, and that's one of the things that really got them excited about this model 360. But I ran so many stitches, all of these stitches right here and more, that I ended up running this thread down to almost nothing, and I knew there wouldn't be enough on it to demonstrate the machine during this premiere today, so I had to change both the bobbin and the thread. So we have right now an empty bobbin that we have to wind, and we have different upholstery thread right here that we're going to try to wind on Emily's machine, and it'll be fun to show her how to do it as well, so that when she has to wind a bobbin down in Texas on her Model 360, she's like, oh, that's a breeze. I saw Scott doing that during the premiere, and I got this. I got this. Because that's what a Texas girl says all the time. I got this. No worries. And that's the way I'm sure that Emily was raised by Veronica and her dad. Yep, no worries. I'm going to make it happen. I know you will, Emily, but we're going to cover it in this premiere anyway. And Herr Obermeister is also next to a very special patch that came from Germany. When I was living in Germany, I picked up a bunch of these super cool patches, and I wanted to send one of these with your special German machine as well. So this is going to be going over by your the special nameplate I got you for Wisconsin, the chocolate and your unicorns, and that's going to be shipped with your machine as well. And now Herr Obermeister is going to give us a glimpse of what is inside of that original PFAFF box that I'm going to be sending with this machine as well. And in doing that, Herr Obermeister is going to defy gravity. Watch this. Whoa. Yeah, I don't know how he does that. It's super cool. I think I do know how he does it, but I'm not going to tell. And then inside of this box, I put all kinds of special little goodies for Emily. Extra bobbins, special attachments, including a free motion quilting attachment as well. Herr Obermeister, I'm going to let you go for a second here so I can show this one off. This one can get mounted as well, and then you drop the feed dogs, and then Emily can do free motion quilting with this special attachment. And there's all kinds of other attachments and some cool embroidery type thread and a whole bunch of needles and some thimbles that I thought would just be really cool because they're vintage thimbles. Most of them are vintage, and she can put them just on display next to her machine. It's kind of a fun thing to do. All right, Herr Obermeister, I'm going to move you to the back over here so you can watch all the activity, and we're going to start getting going on this. But I'll just give you a quick walk around the machine right now so I don't forget to do it. I should move this sew off as well to the side. Where should I put it? Back over here maybe. And I'll send that with Emily's machine as well so she can see that and can just, I love touching the stitching when it's done with a upholstery thread because it's just got a nice texture to it. So, and we'll just do a quick walk around Emily's machine. Let me set all of this to the side as well. And then we'll wind a bobbin. So starting on the bottom of your machine, Emily, we've got this control right here which allows you to drop the feed dogs when you're going to use that free motion quilting attachment that I just showed you. You just rotate this like that, and the feed dogs drop, and then when you rotate it back, the feed dogs pop back up again. So rotate it clockwise to drop them, counterclockwise to make them pop back up again. This is your light switch, so you just push it, lights off, lights on. Lights off, lights on, lights off, lights on. And then what I did is I replaced your regular bulb with a high output LED bulb that's going to last a really long time. And if it ever burns out, you let me know. I'll send you another one, okay? So let's turn it back on for now. Oh, I'm blind. All right, push it back up close. There we go. Now turn it on. There we go. But that does an excellent job of lighting up the workspace for you and giving you good visibility down on the needle as well. So I really love that type of lighting for any machine for that matter. And then if I move these for a second, you'll see that we've got an extension bed that as well that we can extend. We kind of pull it out. I'm going to try to do this with one hand, by the way. Kind of pull it out and then extend it back in. It locks in place and it gives you a nice extra space to work around. But whenever you're doing the bobbin reinsertion of that, you'll want to take this and kind of lower it back down so you can access this area more easily. You just kind of grab this with your thumb, open it up, and that's where your bobbin and bobbin case are going to go. But first of all, we have to wind a bobbin so we have something to put in there. But if we keep moving up these controls, I'll show you a couple other things on your machine as well, Emily. This is going to be for reverse sewing. You just push it down and it will go into reverse. And then when you want to resume sewing forward, just let it back up again. This is going to be stitch length on your machine. You can adjust it a variety of different ways. This little red line right here is going to be your set point. So right now we're adjusted right around 2. And then I can adjust it to 1, and I can go further and further down. And we'll probably be in this range right around here when we do some of the decorative sewing. I think that's where I was before. And then for some of the other sewing we do, heavy duty sewing, we'll bump it all the way up to 4, which is going to give you the longest stitch length. Yep. And then this up here is going to be a couple of things. This is going to be needle position. When we move this, you'll notice the needle shift. Most of the time you're going to have it center position, but you could just as easily go left position or right position. This is a neat little thing, and one of the first times I saw one of these was on a Necchi machine that's made in Italy. What this allows you to do is it gives you the opportunity to kind of create your own stitching. So as you're sewing and you maneuver this back and forth like this, it's going to manipulate the needle so you can create your own type of zigzag patterns. That's kind of cool, isn't it? I love it. And then this is stitch width right here. So you can see if I turn it this way, we're going to go, right now we're on straight stitching, which is 0. If I turn it like this, then we can go to a super wide zigzag. Oops, I left a little bit of dirt there. I'll get that. Unless you want the dirt, Emily, I'll leave the dirt because it's Wisconsin dirt. But at any rate, that's your stitch width. And again, this allows you to create your own type of zigzag type pattern. You kind of manipulate it manually. This is going to be another control up here that we have to set when we're actually doing decorative utility type sewing from the cams that are engineered into your machine. We don't have to put any cams in Emily's machine. They're already built into the machine. And this control right here is called Control C. And Control C is one of the set points we're going to use when we do some of that decorative sewing during the premiere today. This control right up here, it's not labeled on the stitch wheel. This, by the way, is the stitch wheel that I generated all of those amazing stitches with back here that Emily and Veronica saw that got them very excited about this machine. But there's not a specific, on this stitch wheel, there's not a specific label for that control on top. See, there's no letter. There's no letter for it. But I know that on other PFAFF machines, this is called Control E. So we'll just call it Control E, or we'll call it the on and off switch. And you'll find out why I call it the on and off switch when we do some of that decorative sewing. And then finally, we have these controls down here too that we have to set when it comes to decorative sewing. You can see one is called Control A, and that's going to be our stitch width right here. And then we also have Control B, which is going to be our needle position right here. So between those three settings, well, and Control D, which is underneath the cover up here. Control D right there. So when we're setting stitches on Emily's machine, we have to set Control A, which is the stitch width, Control B, which is going to be our needle position. And we don't do a thing with this. We don't change that because that's going to be potentially moving during some of these stitches. And then we have to set Control C right here. And again, we're calling this Control E. And then Control D is underneath the hood. So it's just like learning the ABCs. We're going to be setting A, B, C, D. And then we'll also make sure that E is turned on. So it's really simple. You'll see when we do some of these decorative sew-offs during this premiere. So let's wind a bobbin, shall we? Yeah. And I'll show you right now, this is Emily's super cool foot controller right there. An original PFAFF foot controller. And when we're doing regular sewing, we have the clutch engaged. This is the clutch right here. So right now it's turned like this to lock it into place. So if we push on the foot controller right now, the needle should move. That's fun, isn't it? Do not put your finger in there, kids. Do not put your finger in there. Doesn't her machine run beautifully? Yeah, it does. Woo! A little gusto there. All right, let me get back on the tripod and I'll show you how we're going to wind a bobbin on Emily's machine so we can actually try sewing with it. I did a lot of sewing off camera, but I know that Emily wants to see her machine sew on this premiere as well. We may not do a ton of sewing, but we're going to do a fair amount. All right. So to wind a bobbin, we got to do a couple of things, and I already alluded to this. Let's kind of leave that shot kind of like that for right now. And that first song that you heard, which I love and I jammed a little bit on my harmonica with, is called Kazoom. Kazoom. And it's a bunch of people playing kazoos. If any of you in school played a kazoo when you were a kid, type it in the chat, including you, Emily, if you're able to join the chat. Type as to whether or not you played a kazoo when you're in school. I think almost everybody did. It's almost like everybody played a kazoo, and most people played a recorder as well. It almost looks like a flute. So that was Kazoom. Now we're going to play Calamba, which is a fun Latino Spanish-American type song. I love it. Oh yeah. Yeah. This is fun. Good stuff. Good stuff. Mr. Bean. All right, make your exit. Make your exit. He's a very good dancer. Either that or he's having, maybe he's having a seizure. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on Mr. Bean. You never know with him. Okay, so when we're winding a bobbin, we got to, first of all, remember to disengage the clutch so that the needle doesn't move. And we just turn this disc right here towards us. Hold on to the balance wheel and then turn the disc towards you so that it's loose. See that? Right now it's loose, which means if we step on Emily's foot controller right now, you're going to see the balance wheel spinning, but you won't see the needle spinning. Here we go. See that? The needle's not moving, but the balance wheel is, and that's how we have to set it up to wind a bobbin. So now that we have that disengaged, I'm going to get a little bit closer, and now we're going to set this up to wind a bobbin on Emily's machine. Got to turn my screen around so I can see what you're seeing. All right. So first of all, we have to put the bobbin on there, and you'll notice on the bobbin there's a little slat on the bottom, and that has to join up with a pin that's on here. And I'll try to show you that pin, maybe if I came off the tripod, but it's pretty easy to see. There's a little pin right here sticking up, and we have to join those two together. Let me try that. A little piece of fuzz on there. I still have a little piece of fuzz on there. It's very determined fuzz. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to join that up on there. Make sure it kind of slides, that slat slides over the little pin, and that way you've got the bobbin properly seated on there. And then once you've done that, then you have to follow a certain track in order to wind the bobbin with the thread. And we're going to take this thread, and this is embroidery thread, so it's a little bit tricky to work with sometimes. What I generally do is I come around, right here is a tensioner, and you have to bring the thread into a little groove on there that's barely visible. So I'm going to show you, I kind of just brought it around that groove right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the thread through this little track thread guide right here, so that the thread is kind of feeding around that tensioner. And I'm going to bring the thread over here, and I'm going to show you what we did so far so that you are comfortable doing it yourself. I'll just leave the camera plugged in, but I'll kind of pop over there real quick. So you can see what we did. We came, I'm actually too close. We came off of the spool of thread, we came around this tensioner right here, and there's a little groove where the thread fits in there. Then we came through this thread guide right here, and then we bring the thread back to the bobbin. And I believe that we're going to wind it counterclockwise. I usually sometimes will do it backwards, but I believe on this model it's going to be counterclockwise. So we'll just wrap this thread around the bobbin several times, probably about, I usually go about 8 to 10 times, so it's got a good start. And then we'll try winding a bobbin on Emily's machine. Let me get this all set up again. Zoom back in again so we can watch the action. Or we can watch me mess up if I do it wrong, which is okay, because sometimes a teacher, always a student. So I'm still learning all the time. All right. And I think the perfect bobbin winding song is the opening song that we used, Kazoom. So I'm going to put Kazoom back on. Here we go. So all I'm doing now is I'm taking this thread, Emily. First of all, I'm going to make sure it's not wrapped around the bottom, because embroidery thread is real springy. And I'm guessing you probably won't use embroidery thread a lot with your sewing, which is okay. Just making sure I have that inserted in the correct hole. There we go. So now I'm going to wind this thread around this bobbin several times. And again, I'm going to wrap it counterclockwise. And then you want to push this in to engage the bobbin winder. Okay, we've got the clutch disengaged. We've got the thread around there. And I believe in the book it shows that you can double wrap this too, this little tensioner, so that it's less likely to slide off when you're winding. But I don't think we'll wind too fast, so I think we'll be okay. Let's give it a try, see what happens. So once I get to that point, I'm going to go ahead and do this thread. A little clip. Okay, let's give her a go. Here we go. And I kind of keep a, whoops. I let go of that thread too soon. See how it came undone? Let's try that again. Make sure I line this up on the pin again. See that? I let go of that thread just a little bit too soon. So you can learn from my mistake, Emily, and don't let go of that too soon. All right, let's try that again. Here we go. See, I'm just keeping a little bit of a pressure on the spool so it doesn't spin up and come off there. That was quick. Wow. And see, we wound the bobbin beautifully. Let me zoom in on that. Yeah, baby. Back over to here, around the tensioner, and back to that spool. We did it! Hey! Yeah! All right, as a little victory, I gotta play here. Hold on. Yeah! What a great song. I love Kazoom. I could listen to it again and again and again and again, but I won't put you through that. Okay, so we wound our bobbin successfully. So now I'm going to change the camera shot. We're going to come down near the raceway area over here, and I'll show you how to thread this bobbin case and to get her inserted, and that way we're one step closer to being able to do some sewing on Emily's machine. So I'm going to put on My Dog is Happy. My Dog is Happy while we're down here getting ready to set up this bobbin case for some actual sewing. Okay, so this is our bobbin case right here, Emily. And with our bobbin case, you've got to make sure that you periodically clean this because that bobbin is going to be spinning in there really quick. And what I use is I use a little bit of sewing machine oil and I use a Q-tip swab. And my sewing machine oil is something I mix in the workshop, but you can use any standard sewing machine type oil that you have either at your house or that you want to get there in Texas. And what I do is I swab the inside of the bobbin case, and I also clean inside of there as well, because that's going to be spinning on the post that comes off the raceway. And then I also do it around this inside post as well, because that's going to be spinning up quite a bit as well. And you can't see it real well, but there's quite a bit of dirt we got off of there, even though I've cleaned it several times. Now I'm going to take our bobbin that we just wound off the top, and I'm going to hold my bobbin case in my left hand and my bobbin in my right hand with the thread coming over the top. And I'm going to rotate it so that I've got the little slat there so I can put the thread through there. So again, the thread is coming over the top. I'm going to slide that bobbin inside of the bobbin case, and then I'm going to bring that thread through that little slat. See that little slat right there? I'm going to bring it through that little slat and then draw it all the way forward, because it has to go underneath that tension spring. It has to go underneath that tension spring. Otherwise, we won't have a decent top stitch, because this little doodad is going to control what happens to that top stitch. And again, the pull that you should get when you pull it like this is right around 3 ounces. Okay? And if I cheat and I look behind, I can see that when this bobbin is turning, it's going to be turning clockwise. We've had machines recently that are turning counterclockwise, and this one is going to be turning clockwise when it's feeding that thread out through here to create that top stitch. So now I'm going to go down here. Make sure your needle is clear of the raceway area. I'm going to change my shot so we can look at that a little bit better. Your needle can't be down in the raceway, otherwise you won't be able to put the bobbin case in. So you can see right now our needle is sticking down into the raceway. I've got to take our balance wheel and rotate it so that the needle clears that raceway. Okay? And you'll bring it so that your take-up arm is right up here. I'll just shoot up to it real quick. You make sure your take-up arm is at the highest position. Okay? So your needle is clear of the raceway, your take-up arm is at the highest position. And now we're going to, with this opening, where you can see the thread through the top of the bobbin case, we're going to slide that into position and then just gently work it left and right until it snaps in. Listen for this. Did you hear that? Okay. So now we're going to thread the machine. And I'm going to do a little bit of a pre-thread on this hole on top that's a little bit tricky. And then I'll show you how to thread your machine, Emily. Okay. So I'm going to take this in stages just so I don't miss anything, okay? So coming off the back of the spool pin, we're going to go through this thread guide right here. There's a little bit dirt there too. You boys were playing by this machine and got it dirty. Dr. Singer, you got to keep a closer eye on the boys. I cleaned this machine all up for Emily and now it's dirty again. No, you don't have to take your shoes off. Just keep the machine clean. So we're going to go through this little thread guide right here. Then we're going to come over here to this thread guide right next to this control that we're going to be working with during this premiere today. And why do you have two different thread guides? See that right there? Right above our Control C. This again is Control C for setting our different stitches on the stitch wheel. We've got a thread guide here and we've got a thread guide there. That's because this machine is capable of doing dual needle sewing. Plus this thread guide on the right we use when we're winding a bobbin like you already saw. So we put the thread through this thread guide right here. And then we're going to draw it over to the right. And we're going to thread it through another thread guide. This thread guide right over here. And when we thread this thread guide, we're going to come through the top hole first, like so. And then we're going to put the thread back through the bottom hole, right there. So that's kind of what we have now. Then we're going to come down to our upper tension control. And here I might need to come off the tripod because this is a little bit tricky. Not real tricky, just a little bit. So again, always when you're threading a machine, your presser foot on the back right here, your presser foot lever is always going to be at the highest position. And this machine has a two-stage presser foot lever. It's going to be all the way down when you're sewing, and when you come up, it's going to be at stage 1, and then you have to bring it to stage 2. Watch this. See that? And that's going to take those discs completely apart so that they're not pressing with any pressure. Those discs right there. So now we're going to take our thread through those discs. See how we just did that? We bring our thread through those discs. Then we come around here and there's a little spring. See where the thread is touching that spring right there? We have to draw the thread all the way up. Drawing it up, drawing it up. See how it just caught past that little fork? And now the thread is over that fork. And that's the way it has to be for sewing. And then this is going to go up and down as we're sewing out of view to regulate the tension. That's how it works on this machine. Okay? And then from there, we're going to thread up through the hole on our take-up arm. And for any of you watching, this is much more difficult when you're doing it with one hand. And you'll notice again that we have two holes on the take-up arm. Whoop, I'm looking at the wrong spot. We have two holes on the take-up arm, and that's because this machine, again, is capable of doing dual needle sewing. And for dual needle sewing, we would need a spool of thread on both spools over here, and then we would feed it through our same setup as far as threading the machine, but one thread would go through this hole, the other thread would go through that hole for dual needle or twin needle sewing. Hopefully I explained that pretty clear. But we're coming through the bottom one right now when we're doing single needle sewing. So now I'm going to draw that thread through. We've done all the rest, and then we have to go through, and I'm going to probably go back on the tripod to make this easier on myself. We have to go through this thread guide, and then we come down to here through this thread guide, and then ultimately we're going to be threading the needle from front to back. Okay? So let me go back on the tripod so it's a little bit easier for me, and we'll finish this process and get the machine all set up to sew. Yeah, we'll kind of be in this general area because then we're going to be... Actually, I'll do it like this because then we'll be turning the balance wheel to draw the thread up, and we'll show that as well. Well, that was a fun last song. My Dog is Happy. Now we're going to do Good Morning. Good morning. Even though it's not morning, it's afternoon now, but you know what I mean. Now when you're threading through these little eyelets over here, Emily, you'll go from left to right. It'll make it a lot easier for you. So again, my needle's all the way up. What I do is I kind of drop my presser foot so I can get to the eye of the needle more easily, and then just thread it through from front to back through the eye of the needle. Raise your presser foot again. Remember, it's a two-stage presser foot lever. And now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the balance wheel towards you. Make sure your clutch is locked again. So the clutch has to be turned all the way to the back to lock it in place so that that needle is going to move when we push on the gas. Now I'm going to rotate that balance wheel forward to pick up that thread from the bobbin case down below. There we go. I just drew that thread to the back. Now I'm going to close my little door, and I'm going to put my extension bed back up again so that we have more workspace to work with. Bring those threads to the back again. And now we've got the machine all set up to do sewing. All set up. And I think the first thing we'll sew is a little bit of genuine elk hide. So I'm going to slide that underneath the presser foot. Make sure your threads stay to the rear. Go ahead and drop that down. And now I'm going to make sure that we're all set up for a real long stitch. So I'm over here by our stitch length. Make sure it's all the way on 4. Again, this is going to be a reverse, which we're not going to be using right now. Your needle position. This is that one that allows you to create your own kind of zigzag by going up and down and manipulating the needle as you're sewing. And then this is your stitch width right here on the outside. Stitch width on the card is going to be Control A. So this is Control A, Control B, Control C. Control D is underneath the little cover here. And then again, I'm calling this Control E, which will allow us to turn on the cam function when we get to that stage. But right now we're just going to be sewing a straight stitch through this single layer of genuine elk hide. So let me get a little bit more music on. Actually, you know what? Let's do this first sew off with no music at all. I think that's good. And we'll see how Emily's machine does with a single layer of elk hide, and we'll kind of go down and around. I'll sew in a circle a little bit so you can see the control that Emily's going to have over this very powerful machine. This machine comes with a 0.9 amp motor. Let me make sure that I'm correct on that. I'll zoom in on the needle and I'll double check. I've dealt with so many machines recently that I sometimes will get the amperage off a little bit. So let's go over here so we can watch Emily's machine. So I'm going to block the camera just for a second while I check the data plate on the side. Okay, I'm glad I double checked. The data plate says 0.95 amps, which means it's going to peak at 1 amp. So it's going to be the same strength as most of the Husqvarna machines that do not come with a 1.5 amp. So this is basically a 1 amp machine, is the simple way of saying it. 1 amp is a lot of power. A lot of power. So we just heard Good Morning. Now I'm going to put on Birthday Cake. So if it was your birthday in April, happy birthday to you belatedly. This is called Birthday Cake. We'll listen to the very start of it. I'll stop it and then we'll do our sew off. Waiting for it to load. Okay. So again, as promised, we're gonna do this first sew off with no music, so you can hear Emily's machine run. It runs beautifully. Actually, you already heard it run a couple times, but just a fabulous machine. I love it. All right, here we go. A straight stitch around and around and around and around and around and around. Here we go. Take it really slow, really slow. Start my turn, better start my turn. All right, one more stitch, there we go. Woo! That is fun, trying to make those turns when you're sewing heavy, incredibly heavy leather like this. If you're new to this channel, elk hide is chemically processed, so it is incredibly difficult stuff to get through. But Emily's machine, as you saw, made it look ridiculously easy. Even when we're sewing with upholstery thread, which makes it that much more difficult, because the heavier thread you're using, the more difficult it is for that machine to manipulate that thread to generate the stitch, because it has to do all kinds of things as that needle swings down and the hook comes around, and it creates that lock stitch. When you're dealing with a heavier thread, boy oh boy does that make it tougher on the machine. But this is a tough German machine, and it got it done so easily. So let's look at the top stitch first that we just generated with Emily's PFAFF 360. Beautiful stitching. I'm already seeing it right now. And so are you. That worked out nicely. So we're looking at the totality of stitching right now on Emily's machine. And again, it's a standard straight stitch. We had it at the largest setting for the machine, so we're getting probably around 5 to 6 stitches per inch. And if we go around and kind of follow the snaky pattern to this, which is a little bit challenging, around and 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 around. Oh boy, I'm going to make you seasick. and finally to the middle. So beautiful, beautiful top stitching. I would definitely give this a page 34 as far as just how gorgeous that stitching is. Exactly what we want to be seeing. And again, we're using an upholstery thread, which makes it a lot tougher to get great stitch definition because it's a lot bulkier thread. But we've got beautiful stitch definition here, the spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch, the presentation of the stitch, the glory of the stitch is exactly what we want to be seeing. Let's turn it over now and see how we did on that lock stitch. So here is our lock stitch now. And again, the lock stitch is always going to be tougher to define when you're on any sewing machine, but particularly when you're using upholstery thread. And I'm not going to take you around and around and around. I'm going to kind of go up and down so you can look at the beautiful lock stitches. Definitely page 34 lock stitches on Emily's machine. And again, remember that this is genuine elk hide. We're talking about 3 to 4 ounces of chemically processed leather. One of the tougher leathers to sew. Very, very tough stuff. And yet you saw Emily's machine sew it just like, I mean, like a hot knife going through butter. It got it done so easily. It's almost ridiculous. So easily. And lay down stitching that is absolutely brag-worthy. Beautiful stitching. And again, if you look closely at the edge of this leather, you'll see what we just showed through. And I've got the camera screen the wrong way. 3 to 4 ounces of chemically processed elk hide. Very tough stuff to get through, and yet Emily's machine made it look absolutely like it was sewing a light cotton material or something. So easily. Beautiful sew off. I'm going to throw that to the rear by the other sew off that I did off camera. Again, this one right here, which gives you an idea of what the decorative possibilities are with Emily's machine. One of the greatest PFAFF machines ever made, without a doubt. Absolutely amazing machine. So let me put on a little bit more music. We did birthday cake, so again, happy belated birthday if it's your birthday. Now we're going to do sunny day, sunny day. Eventually, when it loads, when it's good and ready, when it's ready, it'll play. Maybe. I'm going to get a quick drink real quick while I have a chance. All right, let's get over by the needle again. Trying to think of what else I have to sew. I think I have upholstery material too. Why don't I do that first, and then we'll move over into the decorative realm. Let's do that. Oh, I've got denim too. I forgot I cut denim today. I've got all kinds of fun stuff for us to try. So this right here is commercial grade canvas. Canvas is what they make tents out of and a number of other things that they want to be super, super durable. Also, many sails on sailboats are made out of canvas too. So we're going to be going through multiple layers with Emily's machine. Again, this machine comes with a 0.95 amp motor, which is really strong, but it's going to peak at 1 amp, which is even stronger. So we're going to try to go through 6 layers of this stuff. I just folded it in half, which gives us 2 layers. Now I'm going to fold it in the middle to give us 4, and then fold it one more time to give us 6 layers. Look at that, Emily. That's what your machine is about to sew. Absolutely crazy. Look at it from the side. And Emily might never, ever, ever sew something this heavy duty with her machine, but I want her to know that it's able to do it. So I'm going to slide it underneath the presser foot, and we're going to try to buzz right down the middle of this. And I'm not going to make the mistake that I did in a recent premiere. I'm going to make sure that that material is all the way underneath that presser foot so that we have a proper launch, so that we don't end up spinning out. But look at that from the side, folks. Emily, your machine is not only able to sew beautiful, beautiful stitches, as you've already seen, but it's also able to handle real heavy-duty stuff. So we're going to start by demonstrating that with this 6 layers of commercial upholstery material. We already sewed elk hide, which is certainly also heavy-duty, but now we're dealing with 6 layers of upholstery, of genuine canvas. I'm so excited about the upholstery material that I've been sewing so much of. Now I'm stuck in the upholstery mode. This is commercial grade canvas, and it's actually a heavier grade than the U.S. Army grade canvas that you've seen me sew a bazillion times on this channel. So let's see how Emily's machine does now. We're going to be laying down a straight stitch on 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. I wanted to make sure I got it right that time. I didn't call it upholstery material again. And whenever you're launching with a super difficult sew-off like this, make sure your take-up arm is all the way at the highest point and getting ready to go on that downswing with the needle bar. That way you're going to get the best penetration, the best launch possible. All right, let's give this a try. This is anything but an easy sew-off, but I think Emily's machine is able to handle it, and we want to at least give this Model 360 the opportunity to try, right? Yeah, to try. Listen to me sound all dramatic. More like succeed. All right, here we go. 6 layers of commercial canvas. All right. Come on, we believe in you, PFAFF 360. Get her done. Get her done. It can't get it done if I don't put my foot all the way on the foot controller, right? It can't get it done. Sorry about that weak launch, Emily. I might buzz down it again just to show that that weak launch is my fault. It's not the machine's fault. All right, let me give these threads a clip first, and we'll look at what we've already sewn, and then we might do it again, just for fun. Okay, so what we're going to look at first is the crazy thickness that we just sewed. 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. And we laid down a straight stitch that is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I'm going to use my clips to kind of balance it. We'll take a look at these top stitches, and then we'll look at that lock stitch down below. And we'll put on some, let's look at the sew-off material. The confirmation sew-off we did with I've Got a Baby Sister. I've got a baby sister. I don't, but that's the name of the song anyway. Well, Emily, this is your top stitch on 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. Wow. Wow! Emily's machine knocked it out of the park. That is a page 34. It's a page 34 without a doubt. Let's look at the totality of the stitching. Through 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. Wow. Come in a little bit closer. We'll look at a cluster of them so you can see the detail a little bit better. Now let's turn this around and look at the lock stitch. And we'll see if we had our upper tension turned up high enough to define that lock stitch. Again, we're talking about that machine having to pull this heavy upholstery thread back through 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. And so we might have to bump up that upper tension slightly if we don't see enough poppiness on this stitch. That is not a problem. Beautiful lock stitch as well. Beautiful lock stitch. Page 34 lock stitch through 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. That is crazy. Wow. Look at the totality of the stitching, folks. Absolutely page 34, top stitch, lock stitch, through 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. Probably thicker and more difficult of a sew-off than Emily will ever use her PFAFF 360 for. But I'll tell you one thing, she is up to the task, as you just saw. And again, look at the thickness of what we went through. Look at it from that side. It's like a phone book, folks. We just sewed a phone book. We just sewed the Texas phone book for the hometown that Emily and her mom, Veronica, and dad are from. Yeah, we did. And laid down stitching that is absolutely page 34. Lock stitch and top stitch as well. Amazing, amazing job. I'm going to throw that to the back with our genuine elk hide and just absolutely give it a pass. That was like a no-brainer pass. Wow. What a fabulous job. So that last song was called I've Got a Baby Sister. And now the next one is going to be kind of a peppy one. It's called Try to Catch Me. Remember how we would play games like that when we were kids, and we would play tag and we would play kick the can and other games like that where somebody would have to chase us down and try to catch us? Well, that's what this song is all about. Yeah, it is. Let's sew some denim now, which we haven't done for quite a while. I don't think we've sewn denim for a long time on Emily's machine. Let's try sewing denim. So I've got some heavy grade denim here. You can see that from the side. Nothing lightweight about this stuff at all. And denim, as you know, is a very durable material, which means as soon as you talk about the durability factor, you know that that material is going to have a super high piercing threshold. In other words, trying to get through it is not going to be easy. So I'm going to line it up like this. We're going to go ahead and give it a fold to get us up to 4 layers. And then give it one more fold and get us all the way up to 6 layers of heavy grade denim. I know, it's crazy, it's insane, but it's fun. All right, let's go ahead and give this a try. Get that underneath the presser foot. And I might do down and around on this. I might do down and around. So 6 layers of heavy grade denim. And this time I'm going to do a better job than I did sewing that commercial grade canvas. I'm going to give it more gas so that we launch and we don't hit that material and the needle goes, whoa, baby, what's going on? Right now, this needle is going to hit that material and go through it like a hot knife through butter. At least that's the plan, I'm hoping. All right, here we go. Take up arm at the highest position. 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Here we go. Whoa, I really got excited there. Yeah, I did. All right, down to the finish. No box closing today. No box closing. All right, down to the finish. No music, just the sound and rhythm of this incredibly powerful PFAFF 360. Again in German, 360. 360. Going through 6 layers of heavy grade denim with that 0.95 amp motor. Here we go. Can you hear that machine just going bum 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 bum? Doesn't sound exactly like that, but I'm basically saying that this machine just goes after that and goes, yeah, no worries. No worries. And again, we're using upholstery thread, folks. Upholstery thread. Right away, that's going to make it more difficult. More difficult. But difficult's okay sometimes. It's okay. So we went down and around on 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Let's see how we did on the stitching. That's our top stitch. This is our lock stitch. And I might see if I can lean this one as well, just to make it a little bit easier. Don't have to grab the cool thread holder that Maddie sent me from Florida. There we go. Got it balanced just right. All right, let's play that one more time. Try to catch me. So there's our totality of stitching right there. And I'll tell you one thing, folks, at a quick glance, that's absolutely page 34. Let's look at the two next to each other and see what you think. Absolutely spot on. Spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch. Exactly what we want to be seeing. The totality of the stitching again. As I turn this around so we can look at the lock stitch. Again, folks, look at it from the side. 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Crazy. Let's turn around and look at the lock stitch. The lock stitch is going to be the tougher of the 2 stitches for this model 360 to generate, because it's taking that upholstery thread, that super heavy thread, and it's having to pull it all the way back up through 6 layers of heavy grade denim. That is not an easy task, folks. That is not easy at all. And yet I can tell you, just looking at these lock stitches, they're absolutely page 34. Let's zoom in and take a closer look. Wow. Wow! I'm moving the whole camera. I'm so excited. Absolutely spot on. Again, the lock stitch is going to be the tougher of the 2 stitch lines for this machine to generate, because of the sheer fact that it's got to work against gravity and viscosity and friction and everything else, trying to pull that thread to the top to define that lock stitch. And yet this model 360 that belongs to Emily from the great state of Texas, it got this done so easily. This time I was not limpy-dimpy with pushing on the foot controller. I gave it about 25% gas to launch into this sew-off, and it almost blew my socks off. Of course, I don't have socks on, so that's a lot easier. But the point is, unlike when I launched into that commercial grade canvas and I didn't give it enough gas and that needle hit that material and it was like, boom, stop. And then I gave it a little bit more gas and nudged it a little bit, and it just launched into it with no problem at all. That was my fault. This time I learned my lesson and I gave it more gas, because we're dealing with 6 layers of heavy grade canvas. Heavy grade denim. Heavy grade denim. Too much coffee today. So 6 layers of heavy grade denim, and Emily's machine just sewed it like, what's the big deal? What is the big deal? There's no big deal here. It's easy. And that's exactly what this machine just showed, is how easy it is for this 360 to get the job done. And I'm thinking that on this 6 layers of heavy grade denim, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay down a zigzag down the middle of it. Yeah, let's do that. And I won't make you listen to Try to Catch Me again. We'll listen to Put On Your Dancing Pants. Yeah, let's put on our dancing pants. And I'm going to turn my little heater on again, because it's still cold in Wisconsin. I don't know about Texas right now. I don't know what the temperature is where Emily and her family are, but it's still chilly in Wisconsin right now. Yeah, it is. All right, we're going to lay down a zigzag now, which I know Emily's going to be using zigzags. Yes, she is. So Emily, to go from a straight stitch only to a zigzag, we got to make a couple little adjustments. This is a fun song. I got to turn this up. Yeah. So Emily, again, this control right here, which on our stitch card is going to be called Control A. Control A is our stitch width, this dial on the inside. We've got to turn that clockwise. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to turn it all the way over to 2. And I'm going to leave... No, I'll adjust this too. This is our stitch length down here. I'm going to adjust this back to 2 as well. I love this song. So we changed Control A, which is our stitch width, to 2. We changed our stitch length down here to 2. And now we're going to try to lay down what I call a baby zigzag. A baby zigzag on these 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Here we go. Let's see how we do. Yeah, baby. Two, three, go! Ha-ha! Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Ooh, that's a cute stitch. I like baby zigzags. They're fun. And what I'm doing is you can kind of see, I kind of rock the balance wheel back and forth as I'm pulling that thread so I can clip it. It just makes the thread feed a little bit easier, a little bit less resistance. So that's your thread pulling hack for Emily's 360. All right, so this is our top stitch. Let me clip this thread. We'll look at this. I got to flip it again to do our lock stitch here. Okay, so flip it back up again, and we'll look at our top stitch first for this baby zigzag that we just laid down on Emily's Model 360. We'll see what we think of this baby zigzag. All right, let's zoom in on it and take a look. Oh, we're way over there. That wasn't too helpful, was it? So here's our baby zigzag right down the middle that we just laid. We've already looked at the other stitching. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of that baby zigzag is just absolutely as it should be. Absolutely a page 34. No doubt about it. Let's look at the totality of the straight stitching and the zigzag that we laid down using Emily's Model 360. Once I stop jiggling and wiggling the camera, that is. Aren't those gorgeous stitches, folks? I mean, really, they really are. The straight stitching that we did to begin with around the outside, and then we just laid down that baby zigzag down the middle, which is absolutely spectacular. So let's turn it around now and see if the lock stitch, which again is the more difficult stitch for this machine to accomplish, let's see how it did with this baby zigzag. We already know it did a bang-up job with the straight stitching. Now let's look at that baby zigzag. Again, this is our lock stitch. It's going to be tougher to accomplish. And yet, even from this distance right now, with the totality of stitching, if I stop jiggling the camera, it's exactly as it should be. The straight stitching we already know is phenomenal. Now we're going to zoom in a little bit closer and look at that zigzag. Again, the more difficult of the stitches to generate because of the factor of friction, viscosity, and gravity trying to hold that thread from being able to pass all the way from the bottom back up through 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Look at that from the side, folks. Does that give you an idea of how strong Emily's machine is? Absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. Totality of the stitching again on the lock stitch, it speaks for itself. That is absolutely page 34, bragging rights sewing right there. Unbelievable. I love it. So put on your dancing pants. We already heard that, that's a lot of fun. Now we're going to do bedtime, even though it's not bedtime. Well, unless you're over in Europe maybe. But right now we're going to do, actually it's not even bedtime in Europe. It's probably around 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. Some people might go to bed that early if they have a real early morning the next day. But we'll do bedtime next. So I'm going to throw these 6 layers of heavy grade denim to the back as a definite pass. What a fabulous job. Fabulous job. Now we're going to do the dreaded compressed felt. The stuff that always makes you a little bit nervous. And this time I'll actually have the camera pointed down at the needle so you can see the machine sewing. Who knew? And we'll probably do 3 layers. Yeah. Let's do 3 layers. 3 layers of compressed felt. Broken needle during one of the premieres. I can't say that enough because it just totally shocked me. I had never, ever, ever broken a Schmetz needle before that premiere. So I'm going to fold this over, get us up to 2 layers, fold this again, get us all the way up to 3 layers of compressed felt. Kind of go like this, it gives you an idea, folks. All right, we're going to try to go down and around on this too, and we'll see how Emily's machine does with it. Very tricky stuff, very, very tricky. And maybe we'll go down and around using a baby zigzag. That would be fun, huh? All right, presser foot is down. And I might make that a little bit... I'll take us from a 2 to about a 2.5. We'll make it just a little bit bigger. Little bit bigger. Bigger from a standpoint of how wide it's going to be. It's going to be a little bit wider than the last one we did on the heavy grade denim. All right, let's give this a try. 3 layers of compressed felt, laying down a semi-baby zigzag. If you want to duplicate this on your PFAFF 360, it's going to be on Control A, which is the stitch width. It's going to be 2.5, and down on stitch length, it's going to be 2.5. All right, here we go. Keep your fingers and toes crossed. Here we go. Perfect timing. I like it when the song ends just in time for us to launch into the sew off. All right, now we're going to go across. See how I'm really metering out that power? Because this machine has so much power. When I'm doing that side little portion there of the run, I've got to really, really tame that power back. All right, now down to the finish. Here we go. Listen to Emily's machine run. It's whisper quiet, it really is. Other than the really cool German engineering of doom, 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 just like a locomotive. Here we go. Beautiful job. Wow. And that's 3 layers of compressed felt, folks. That is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. All right, got those back that way. Now let me give these threads a clip and let's look at the stitching that we just did. Again, we're using a heavy grade upholstery thread. We just went through 3 layers of compressed felt, which is the only material in any premiere that I'm aware of on my channel where I snapped a Schmetz needle. Never did it before. All right, let's use our clips again to kind of balance this up. We're going to take a look at this top stitching, and then we'll flip it over and look at the lock stitching. Well, I can tell you already from totality of stitching standpoint, this semi-baby zigzag that we just laid down through 3 layers of compressed felt is absolutely a page 34. Let's go around and look at them closer. Wow. Folks, it just doesn't get any better than that. It just doesn't. It doesn't get any better. That's page 34, first edition. First edition. As far as the little bit bigger than a baby zigzag that Emily's machine just laid down. And again, look at from the side, folks, what 3 layers of compressed felt looks like. All right, now let's turn it around and look at that zigzag lock stitch. Folks, that's also page 34. I could see as soon as I turned it around. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch, the presentation of the stitch, it's just absolutely as it should be. It's amazing. Look at the clarity of that stitch. Wow. Wow! Page 34, folks. 3 layers of compressed felt. I'm going to throw that to the back as a definite pass. Just amazing. Let me show you the sew-off sandwich that we've done so far. Now this is on camera. We kind of line these up, and then I'll set this other one to the side that I did off camera. So this is our sew-off sandwich so far. Right there. Now most people, most ordinary people, would just leave it at this and say, that's nuts, man. That's nuts. You're not just sewing like a cotton blend or something like that with a couple of stitch rows and saying we're done. You've done compressed felt. 3 layers of that laying down a perfect quasi-baby zigzag. Just, it's spot on. It's actually as it should be. Then you did, before that, you did this heavy grade denim. 6 layers of that stuff, and you laid down perfect stitching with that as well. Combination of straight and zigzag again. You did this commercial grade canvas. Commercial grade canvas, and you laid down a perfect straight stitch for the straight on top, the top stitch, and also the lock stitch as well. And look at again the thickness of that commercial grade canvas, folks. Yeah, I know. And then you launched with this one. This genuine elk hide. It's a single layer, but look at the thickness of that, folks. 3 to 4 ounces of chemically processed leather. And between the top stitch, the lock stitch, or the lock stitch, the top stitch, whatever you want to call it. That's fun to do, actually. Slow it down, slow it down. Yeah. See that? Fine motor skills, folks. You learn all kinds of things in this class. Yeah, you do. But, I mean, it's just gorgeous stitching, folks. Single layer of genuine elk hide, and it's just spot on. So all of this we did on camera so far. And we're not done yet. I'm going to throw that to the back. And then this I did on the same needle. All of this off camera. Giving you just a tiny little sampling of what Emily's machine will do from a decorative standpoint. We could quit right now, but I'm having too much fun. I'm having way too much fun. So we're going to keep on sewing for a little bit longer. And I think I'm going to move to super lightweight next. I'm going to do some of that ribbon material. But first of all, we're going to listen to Here Come the Raindrops. Here come the raindrops. Yeah, they are. Those are raindrops right there. Bling, 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 bling. All right, let me change this shot a little bit. And why don't we move into the decorative side of things? Let's do that. That's true. We're only going to be setting these 3 things, but we will be adjusting stitch length. Let's do that first. Okay, so we're going to do some decorative sewing now, using some of the cam functions of this PFAFF 360. So we've got to take our stitch length way down. We'll try right around 0.6, see what we think of that. Right around there. Now we have to go up to controls A and B and just verify based on the stitch we're going to try to do. We're going to verify the output of that one. Deciding what material I want to sew first. Yeah, why don't we sew on some leather like we had done previously. I'm going to get that underneath the presser foot. It sure is a long sew off. Let me shorten this a little bit. Just cut off one strip a little bit because I don't want to run out of thread. There we go. Presser foot is down. We'll throw that to the side. Throw these to the side. I didn't know what my camera shot is right now. Oh, we're way over there. That's right. We adjusted stitch length down. Now let's widen our shot and work with these other controls up here. So the first control we'll work with is this one. Actually, I'm going to come off the tripod because it's a little bit hard to see. Hold on a second. So the first control we're going to work with is this, what I'm calling Control E. It's the same one that we ran the thread around when we wound a bobbin. And we have to turn this to activate the cam function. So I'm going to turn this all the way down to 1. And the reason you have a choice of 1, 3, 5, 7 is this will manipulate the spacing of the cam generated stitch. In other words, if you go on 1, you're going to generally get shorter stitch clumps as far as the pattern, and you're going to be able to generate more of them, like I did on the sew-offs back here. See how I've got, generally on a row, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, between 4 to 5 stitch pattern clumps, as I'll call them. Now, if I bump this over to, say, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, it's going to lengthen those stitch clumps, so I'll get fewer of them in a stitch row. I like to have more, so I put mine on 1. At least we'll start there. Now I've got to do some other stitch setting as well for generating a pattern that we might want to sew. Now the question is, what pattern do we want to sew? We could do something like this. Let's see here. This will be a fun one, I think. Yeah, let's try this one. You know me and my building block one. So we're going to try this building block one. So Control A, which is our stitch width, I've got to take that to about 1.5. Let's try that. 1.5. Yeah, which is going to be right about there. See, we have 1, 1.5, 2, then we have 0.5 over here next to the 0. So I'm going to go right around 1.5. Let's give that a try. And then the next thing I need to set, so I set my control A at 1.5, which is our stitch width. Now I need to set control B. No, I don't. Control B is going to be moving. Control B is going to be moving, which means our needle position will probably be something that's manipulated during this stitch pattern, because that's control B. Then we have control C, which is this knob right here. And according to this setting, we need to set control C at 3. Right now it's at 0. So we're going to click it clockwise to 1, 2, 3. So let's check our stitch card again, our stitch wheel. We set control A to 1.5. We set control B to nothing because it presumably is going to be moving. Control B is again going to be our needle position. And then, where are we? Control C we set to 3. And now we need to set control D to 1. Control D is again going to be underneath the hood. So we have to open this up. And again, we're wanting to set it on 1. Right now we're on 2. So I start turning it clockwise to 3, to 4, to 5, to 6, 7, 8, and finally to 1. See how it has arrows as well that show you always turn it like this. Don't try turning it the other way. There's an arrow there, arrow there. Turn it clockwise. Okay? That's our cam stack right there that has all the cool stuff engineered to allow us to do all the kind of decorative stitching that you saw over here. Okay? So we've set everything according to the way it told us to set it. We set we set A, C, D. B is going to be doing its own thing. Okay? So let's try to sew this pattern, and we're going to be sewing it on a single layer of genuine cowhide. Genuine cowhide. All right, let me get the camera back up on the tripod and let's give this a go. And assuming we've set everything correctly, we should get a pretty cool stitch that we're going to be sewing right now. And we'll sew this without any music. Once I plug my power back in. There we go. You know what? The only thing I'm going to change is, assuming that the needle position control is going to be moving, that'll be kind of fun to watch if it is. So let's go over to here. I like that better. Yeah. All right, so let's try to sew off this stitch pattern that we just set on Emily's PFAFF 360, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, here we go. Hopefully I didn't set the stitch length too short. If I did, it's going to spin out, and we'll have to adjust it up a little bit. So here we go. So this didn't move at all like on the 130-6 with the embroidery kit type machine, but it just let us leave it in the default, which is center position. So that's okay. That's okay. And I can see that I probably could have gone even a little bit shorter than I did. We ended up getting some good result, actually some great result, but probably could have made that even a little bit tighter. But that'll be up to Emily to decide where she wants to set her different stitches. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm gonna choose our next stitch. Let's see what we should do next. This is kind of a cool one. Ooh, I like that one a lot. Let me show you this one that I'm kind of thinking about. And then we'll go through, and I'll show you all of these when we get done. All right. So the next one I'm thinking about doing is this one right here. You see the one I'm looking at that's just above there? It almost looks like kind of a heart monitor or something like that. So we've got to make a couple of different changes on here. We're not going to do anything with B. B is going to stay pretty much a default in a center position, but we've got to change some other things. So let's come all the way out to here. Well, we'll do it in stages. We'll leave our stitch length alone for right now. So we'll focus on Control A first. So we can see from this stitch pattern setting on the wheel that it's telling us that Control A needs to be at 0. Control A needs to be at 0, which means we need to turn this dial all the way down to 0. Okay? Control B is going to be doing its own thing. Control C is going to be on 5. This again is going to be Control C off camera. I've got to adjust my shot. Hold on. Okay, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Okay. So this is going to be Control C right here, and we've got to set that according to the stitch card at 5. So we're on 3 right now, now on 4, and now we're on 5. And then finally it's telling us Control D needs to be on 8. Control D is going to be, again, the one underneath the hood. And again, we're always going to turn that clockwise. So we're on 1 right now from the last stitch off we did. Now we're on 2. And always make sure your needle is clear of the material whenever you're changing any of these controls. Always make sure your needle is clear of the material, because the needle is going to move sometimes depending on the control you're manipulating. So we're going to go to 8. Now we're on 5, 6, 7, finally 8. So that again is Control D. Okay, so I'm just going to put that right there for just a second. I'll kind of balance it. And I want to show you what we're looking to do. So we set all the controls it told us to set. We set Control A all the way down to 0. Control B, we left it alone. Control B, again, is going to be our needle position. Control C, we moved to 5. And then Control D to 8. So Control A, again, is the stitch width. Control B is the needle position. We didn't have to do a thing with that. Control C is this right here. And then finally Control D is underneath the hood. So we set everything according to the way it told us to set it. So we should get something similar to that pattern right there, the heartbeat one, as I would call it. Our cardiac stitch. Our cardiac stitch. All right, let me bump that out of the way. We'll get a little bit closer to the needle this time so we can kind of watch the stitch output. And we'll do this next decorative stitch. And I'm not going to fill up this entire piece of leather. But we'll do a number of other stitch offs as well, just so we can see the output of that. All right, here we go is our next decorative stitch off. Oh, here it is manipulating the control. Let me widen this shot because it's fun. Here it is doing some manipulation of the controls, which is fun to watch. All right, right about to there. Right about to there. All right, back to sewing. But I saw this starting to move, and it was like, okay, because I don't have all these patterns memorized. I don't remember which ones manipulate and which ones don't. So watch this control right over here. It's fun. And see, that's something that, like I said, you can also, when you're not in the cam sewing mode, you can also manipulate this when you're in general sewing mode, when you have all of these other controls turned off, which is a lot of fun. A lot of fun to be able to manipulate that manually. All right, we got that extended out. Let me get my threads clipped, and we'll move on to some other decorative type sewing. All right, let's put that back, clip this, clip this. Yeah, that's a fun one. That's a fun one. All right, so I got my material back in place. We're ready to go on to the next one. Let me look at my camera shot. I have to manipulate a little bit up. Yeah, that should be pretty good, I think, for our general setting. So what should we try next? What should we try next? Let's try this one. Oh, that's a fun one. Let's try that one. Okay, so the one we're going to try next is the one right above where you can see the little window that I have right here. See that? Let's give that one a try. So some of our settings will already be set. Like this control right here, which is, again, is Control A, is already on 0. So we're good to go there. It's telling us that Control B is going to float. It would be on default, so we're going to leave that alone. Control C is already on 5, and that's what this pattern requires. But now Control D up here on the hood, we've got to change that from where it's at right now on 8 over to 2. Okay, so now we're on 2. So you can see we set A was already on 0. A was already on 0. B is floating. C was already on 5. Yeah, C was already on 5. And then we had to change D from 8 to 2. And again, D is the one that you have to open the little cover on top, and then you have to rotate it clockwise. So let's see what we get with this one now. And I'll adjust the camera just in case our controls decide to come to life. Kind of like Night in the Museum. They decide to come to life, we can watch them do their little dance. All right, let's do this next stitch now. Make sure your take-up arm's at the highest position. And now we'll try to do this next stitch pattern. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, it's really active. Woo! It's doing a poppy. That was fun. So some of the times when the control is manipulated, sometimes it's very quiet, sometimes it's vocal. Kind of like an inside and an outside voice, isn't it? Yeah, that was fun. And Emily, just as a tip, when you're pulling the material, so you can clip your threads, just pull it on a slight angle to the right. Because again, you're threading the needle from front to right, and that way it allows that thread to feed just a little bit more easily. Yeah, that was a fun one. Nothing wrong with an outside voice, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's get our material back in place. And I think we'll do 1 or 2 more. Presser foot is down. So what should we do next? Could do a black one. That one's kind of cool over there. Kind of rotate this all the way over to here. Yeah, that one's kind of interesting, isn't it? Let's check this one out. It's the black stitch just above the window. Can you see that? The black stitch just above the window. So our settings will be, A will be 0 where it's already at, B is going to float, C has to go to 4, and then D is going to be on 2, which I think it's already on 2, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the one we're going to do next. We'll call it the licorice stitch since it's black. A lot of people, when they think of black, they think of licorice as far as food. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm kind of hungry. So black licorice sounds pretty good right about now. So let's do these settings now. So Control A, which is this dial right here again for stitch width, has to be on 0. It's already there. Control B is going to float, which is this control right here for needle position. Control C has to be on 4, and right now it's on 5. And you always want to turn this the same direction. So we have to go from there to 0, to 1, to 2, to 3, finally to 4. And then Control D, let me just verify. Yep, we're already on 2. So we've set all of our controls to try to generate this licorice pattern. So let's give it a try. And we'll leave the camera position so that if any of the controls decide to come to life, we can watch them do their dance. We're actually pretty much there already, aren't we? Yeah, that's fun. All right, so let's do this next stitch pattern that we've dialed into this stitch wheel. Make sure my take-up arm is at the highest position. And just verify again, we should have everything set correctly. So here we go. Ooh, it's coming to life. It's coming to life, Emily. Help, help. Woo. Yeah. Ooh, I almost ended in the up position. That was so exciting. Oh yeah, that's a fun one. I like that one a lot. That's a pretty one. All right, let me draw this out. Again, just draw it to the right a little bit, Emily. Kind of rock your balance wheel. And then the thread will move easily enough. Put your thread back again. Clip our threads. Oh yeah, that's a fun one. I like that one a lot. That's fun. It's very similar to the other one. Very similar. And again, you'll get a different result depending on what you do with your stitch length. Your stitch length again is you're gonna have some discretion in what you do with that. So let's try. I like the bendy ones too. Let's try one of these bendy ones over here. Try this one first. Real close to our building block one. So it's telling us that we want to set Control A. We're going to do this next one yet. We're going to set Control A to 1.5. Control B is going to be static. Control C is going to be on 3. And Control D is going to be on 3. So we're going to set all those controls right now. I'll just bring this up a little bit so you can see me go underneath the hood as well. Okay, so Control A first of all, again, is going to be our stitch width, and we've got to take that to 1.5. 1.5. Right about there. Control B is going to float. Control C is going to be on 3. So we got to take it from 4 to 3. So we have to go all the way around. 0, 1, 2, 3. And then Control D is going to be on 3, and right now it's on 2. So we got to just turn it one turn clockwise. Okay, so let's try to do this next pattern now with Emily's PFAFF 360. 360. All right, here we go. Take-up arm is at the highest position, and let's launch. And this one is not doing any movement at all. It's just manipulating the needle bar. It's just manipulating the needle bar to generate that really fun stitch. Yeah, I like that one a lot too. And again, if we tweak around the stitch length, some of the other settings we're told what to set them at, but if we tweak around the stitch length, we can get a totally different looking stitch. I've said that before in other premieres. So Emily might decide to go shorter on the stitch length. As long as she is able to get the material to move effectively, that's cool. She might decide to go longer, and then the stitch will look totally different. But I like what we got. Yeah. All right, we're going to do just one more stitch, decorative stitch, and then we're going to start to wrap up this premiere. And I know we could do a lot more, but I want Emily to be able to do some and choose herself what she wants to do with them too, so that'll be fun. What should we choose next? That's kind of a fun one too. Yeah, let's do this one next. We haven't done this one yet. Let me show you this one. So this is the one I'm thinking about doing next. See that right above there? The one that almost looks like a McDonald's symbol, kind of, sort of, if you use your imagination. So we can see that A is going to be on 1.5, which is where we should already be. B is going to be a floater. C is going to be on 3, and D is going to be on 7. So let's go ahead and set those controls. So we're already on 1.5 right here. I was a little bit off on 1 point. I was just a hair off. B is going to be something we just leave alone. That's going to be our needle position. C is going to be 3, which we're already on 3. And then D up here is going to be on 7. And again, always turn it clockwise. So we're on 3, we're going to go to 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to close that little door again, get our needle position at the highest point, and we'll sew off this next stitch. And this will be our final decorative stitch, I think. All right, here we go. And we'll see if anything comes to life. I don't know if it will or not. Let me just adjust this a little bit. There we go. Here we go. Stop! I command you! Ha ha ha! All right. Oh, that's a fun one. Ooh, that's really fun. We could do the mirror image of that. That would be fun. Maybe we'll do one more. There's a mirror image of this same pattern. There's a mirror image of that same pattern. All right, let's move those back. Get my material back into place. We'll see if we can just squeak out one more decorative stitch. That'll be fun. And then we'll look at all these close up. So what is the mirror image? The mirror image is there a mirror image? I guess there isn't. There's one that kind of is a mirror image, but it's not quite. We'll rotate that over there and see if we can do that one real quick. So this is one, it's not, see how they're not exactly the same? The one we just sewed is to the right of where I have it set right now. It's a little bit different. But we're going to try to do the mirror image of that, near mirror image. It's going to be a little bit different. But those are our settings right there. So A is going to be on 1.5 where it's already at. B is going to be a floater. C is going to be on 3 where it's already at. And the only thing we're going to change in this instance is Control D. Control D is going to get moved to 6. So let me do that real quick. We got to go all the way around. 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's sew off this final pattern. This will be our final pattern. And then we'll take a look at these stitches. Okay, so all of our other things are set. Let's go ahead and do this final decorative sew off on Emily's PFAFF 360. 360. Here we go. Did I do it? Yes! I'm in the up position. Yay! Hey! Yeah, it's facing the same way. It's not really a mirror image. I chose a pattern that's kind of orientated the same way, but it's got a slightly different pattern look to it than the other one. Slightly different pattern look. Now, the one thing I'll mention as well, Emily, is that this machine has been fully serviced. I've taken it through my very complex maintenance process to make sure that it's all ready to go to work for you. But to maintain it, you'll have certain oiling that you'll have to do to the machine, and 99% of it is going to be from up top, and we'll look at that real quick. But first of all, we're going to look at this stitching that we just did, which is fun. And I might use my stitch holder that Maddie sent me for this one. And we'll look at the top stitching first. Okay. And we did all of this during the live premiere. It's not like a static display where some people do it and you're wondering, did the machine really sew that? You saw the machine sew all of these beautiful patterns that are on Emily's machine. And Emily, if you're drooling a little bit right now, I don't blame you at all, because your machine is incredible. It's incredible! I'm going to put on music. I need music. I need incredible music. And this next one is perfect. A perfect choice, Emily. It's called I Love My Mom. And your mom, Veronica, was so instrumental in helping you to get this fabulous machine. We're going to play this next song in honor of your mom, Veronica. And it's called I Love My Mom. Yeah. And it'll eventually play. There it goes. So we'll look at these in groups of 2, 4, 6. We did 7 stitches, it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll get a little bit closer and look at some of these. Kind of do it in groups of 3. Oh, there goes my phone, reminding me of something. Now again, we could manipulate these through stitch length and get a different output, but I think they're fabulous, don't you? Again, upholstery thread gives a little bit more dimension to the stitch pattern. Gives it a little bit more style, a little bit more texture. These are fun. There's our building block on the bottom there. I think those are just phenomenal, don't you? Aren't they fabulous? And that's just a small little sample of stitches that Emily can choose using the stitch wheel that I'm giving her. Let's turn it over and see if we can see the lock stitch. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge because it's light thread on a light backing. But we'll zoom in real close and see if we can see the lock stitch, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, you can barely make it out. There you can see some of it right there. Yeah, it's pretty impossible to see it because of the color of the upholstery thread in relation to that, but it's a beautiful lock stitch as well, and Emily will be able to see that. I'll send this with as well. But this again is just a tiny little sampling, of what this Model 360 will generate. So needless to say, this young lady in Texas, by the name of Emily, yeah, I'm talking about you, Emily. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to have so much fun! And you can always come back and watch this premiere again, because it'll be available if there's any tips that you need to make it easier to use this machine, so that you can just have fun and not worry and not be stressed about anything. So, recapping as we wrap this premiere up, all of these, I didn't lock my camera. All of these I did off camera. And any of these stitches, Emily can decide to pull them up on the stitch wheel, do all the settings like I've shown you do multiple times. She can do any of these stitches and more, many, 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 many more, using her PFAFF 360. So that was done off camera. Then on camera, I did, trying to get them clumped here, I did all of these on camera. Everything from this commercial canvas to this heavy grade denim, compressed felt, genuine elk hide, and then all of these decorative ones that we did today live on the premiere, just for fun. So I only have one more sew off that I'm going to do, and it's going to be lightweight because I've gotten a lot of good feedback on doing lightweight sew off. So the last sew off I'm going to do on Emily's machine during this live premiere is going to be this 100% polyester ribbon material that is like absolutely paper thin, absolutely paper thin. And I'll pick a song that seems appropriate for that. This next one is called Cute Avalanche. No idea why, but that's what they named it. Cute Avalanche. Yeah. And I might lay down a couple quick rows of decorative stitching on this. Let's see what I'll pick real quick. And you've seen this so many times, I'm not going to bore you by taking you through it again. Let's try this one. This will be fun. So I'm going to take our Control A, which is our stitch width, all the way down to 0. Control B I'm going to leave alone. Control C I'm going to take to 4. And Control D I'm going to change to 8. Let's try this one. Take up arm all the way up. And here we go. Oh, it's doing its thing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, I ended in the down position. Bummer. All right, just one more stitch row. And we're going to wrap this up. Because I have a customer arriving in just a little bit. And they're shy to be on camera, so I don't want to put them on camera. All right, so one more stitch pattern going down this one. I'll just pick something at random. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, I'll do this one. I'll do this one. I'll just show you what this one is going to look like. Okay, so let's do this. Change Control A to 1.5. B is going to be a floater. C is going to be on 3. So I've got to turn that all the way around. And control D is going to be on 2. Perfect. All right, let's sew off this last pattern. And to do this last pattern, I'm going to move our unicorn friends up here. And hopefully I don't make them fall off. That would be embarrassing, huh? All right, you guys really hang on, okay? We're going to do this last sew off on Emily's machine, and you guys need to be in the picture because you're an important part of this machine's magic and success. All right, here we go. Final sew off. Final sew off. Here we go. I can hear control D moving underneath the cover. Oh, needle down. You guys did really well of hanging on there. I'm going to move Mama and Baby to the front. All right, right there. Press your foot up. Again, Emily, just kind of draw it to the right a little bit, rock your balance wheel, and it'll feed very nicely. Oh, these are beautiful on this ribbon material. Oh, goodness. Dusty loves that sound, but it always makes me a little bit jumpy. That's my air compressor. All right, so I'm pushing the thread back. Give this thread a clip, and then I'll come really close to the camera so you can take a peek at these, because my customer will be arriving any second now. Oh, those are gorgeous. Oh, I love those. Those are amazing. Oh, I wish you could feel that. That is so cool. Look at these stitches that we just did. Aren't those fabulous? 100% polyester ribbon, paper thin. And Emily's machine managed it with no difficulty whatsoever. Top stitch, lock stitch, absolutely spot on, page 34. Absolutely page 34. Amazing. Amazing. Well, Emily, thank you again for the jam. I'm going to put your nameplate right up here. And all of the sew-offs that we've done on your fabulous machine right up here. A huge sew-off sandwich, including the ribbon material we just did. Whoops, I just knocked out Mama. Sorry about that. She's a tough gal. She wasn't even phased. Here, Obermeister, you come back into the shot now for this final shot so we can see all of this incredible stuff that's going to be heading to Texas to our dear friend Emily. So Emily, this is your PFAFF Model 360, including your unicorns and your Emily license plate. And we will end as we started with a song that I really, really enjoy a lot. Because I'm a kid. It's called Kazoom. Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave one of these on. kind of fun, and a little shadow thing moving there. Well, Emily and Veronica, thank you so much for the opportunity of providing this incredible PFAFF 360 to you. And I realize that I didn't go over the specific oiling, but I'll cover that in a separate private video for you to show you what to do to maintain this great machine. And I'm always at your disposal if you have any questions that come up. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna play harmonica. Yeah, I am. Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, thanks for tuning in to another fun premiere where we could celebrate this incredible PFAFF 360 that belongs to Emily down in the great state of Texas. Not to mention, she's now going to be the owner of these unicorns too, and they don't eat much. I think they like peanut butter, if that helps at all. All right, God bless you guys, and stay tuned for other great premieres like this with fabulous machines. I gotta turn the light back on so we can see her machine perfectly. Oh yeah, it's amazing. Ooh, and the chocolate too. Ooh. All right, Emily, have a lot of fun with this machine. And also with your dual residency of Texas and Wisconsin. Ha ha ha! All right, bye now. Signing off. My customers arriving. Bye, little unicorn.